What is up, gamers? Today I'm going to be shelf swapping this Nintendo DS Lite with an extreme rate shell that we have right here. This shell comes with every single thing you need to do a shell swap with. It comes with the spudger, it comes with the screwdrivers, it comes with all of the screws, it comes with all of the rubber pieces, all of the stickers that go along with it. So everything you need is in this extreme rate box. This is going to be a slower, more relaxed type tutorial for people just who want to see the whole shell swap process from every single little detail. I will be covering that in this video. Extreme Rate is the best by far shells that you can buy for a DS Lite. There's a lot cheaper ones on eBay or AliExpress for $12 or less than that. But Extreme Rate, go with them the whole way. I mean, they even come with the tools that you need to fix your DS with, so I highly recommend Extreme Rate. So first and foremost, this DS here, it works. It has a broken hinge, but it mostly works. Its digitizer is bad, the touchscreen, it doesn't register touch well, so I will be replacing this digitizer with a brand new one. I purchased this on AliExpress for just a couple of dollars. They're very cheap, and they're very high quality as well, so I recommend them. If you do not need a digitizer, that's totally okay. I'm just going to be doing that in this video as well. So as we can see, this DS turns on, it works, the screens look good. The buttons mostly work, the D-pad needs fixed, so I'm going to clean that up as well while we're in there, and I'll show you guys exactly how I do that. So two tools that I will be using that are not necessary, but two tools that I will be using are some tweezers right here and some sandpaper. The tweezers are just to be extra precise with the cables inside of the DS Lite, and the sandpaper is to clean off these button contacts on the inside of the DS Lite so that they will work like new. If your buttons work like new already, then you do not need sandpaper. However, they might look dirty, and if they do look dirty, then someday they will stop working nicely, so it might be a good idea just to have some sandpaper with you while you do this shell swap. So let's open the box and see what we have here. So first and foremost, we have the shell and a couple of the shell pieces that go along with it. We have brand new rubber membranes. We have more shell pieces and buttons. We have the stylus and the stylus port. Here we have our tools and screws. Here we have the bottom screen shield, a sticker for it, some other miscellaneous pieces that are needed. Here in this thing, we have our battery door screw and the screw holes for the battery door. We will need those. These are very important. In this one, we have the blue rubber pieces and the ID sticker. And then here we have our new top screen lens and the sticker that goes along with it. And here they have a manual. I'm going to be placing these guys back in the box, and I'll be pulling them out as we need them. I will be using the Extreme Rate tools because that's what they give us. If you have your own, like a screwdriver like this and with the correct bits, I definitely recommend using one of these just because you're probably familiar with it. But for those of you who maybe do not have the correct tools, this will work excellent. So let's pop this open. So here we have the Phillips screwdriver, here we have a spudger, and here is the Y screwdriver. So all of these screws, they even give you a diagram online where you purchased it, an image that shows where each of these screws go. However, I recommend to use the screws that are already on your DS Lite. They are factory from Nintendo, they fit perfectly, and I have used them for each and every one of my Extreme Rate shell swaps. I have never used these actual screws. If you want to, go right ahead, but I'm going to be using these exact DS Lite screws. It's also easier to use these screws since you can know where they go in place. So to get started, the first thing I always do when I disassemble a DS Lite is I get rid of these two rubber pads right here. So you can puncture them with your tweezers. That is pretty much the main thing that these are for. If you do not have tweezers like that, then you can try to use your fingernail or even one of these screwdrivers. You might not reuse these since Extreme Rate includes their own, so if you want to destroy them to get into the DS Lite, then go right ahead. So now I remove the battery door. Let's take out our battery. And there's one Phillips screw right here, another identical one right here, and then there's two Phillips screws right here. This Phillips screw on top holds the shell in, this one holds the motherboard in, but I remove them both at the same time. These screwdrivers are magnetic, so they will pull out your screws for you. And again, you do not need to remove this screw to remove the bottom shell plate, but I typically just remove it anyway. And we're going to put these all off to the side, and we're going to sort them. So now the Y screws, we got 3 identical Y screws. and here, and here, and in here, and then we have a smaller one up top. So let's remove this smaller black one. The screwdriver was already wanting to strip out that screw. That goes back to what I said about if you have your own bit, you might just want to use your own bit, but these do get the job done. If your screws are dirty, they might not stick to the screwdriver, which is okay. They can just stay in the shell. All right, so now, as you can see, these three Y screws stayed in the DS, but that's totally okay. They'll just fall out on their own. So after you've gotten those screws out, what I do, I put my fingernail in here in this little slot, in there, and then I pry, and then I slide them along the whole back side of the console, and then I lift up. The shoulder buttons usually do not come with. That's a little weird, but this one did, so I'm just going to take it out. And always hold the shoulder buttons by this metal rod and their spring, otherwise you could lose them. So if your shoulder buttons stayed inside of your DS Lite like this, then I normally grab it by here, and I lift it upwards to get the spring unloaded, and then I grab it by the metal rod and the spring, and I just pull up. And again, with the screws, I also use these old metal rods and springs for my extreme rate, so I will take these out. So I will be reusing these for the extreme rate shell, even though they include their own. I've always just used the OEM Nintendo ones. They've always worked perfectly. Make sure you keep your left shoulder buttons, rod and spring to the left and your right ones to the right, just to keep them sorted, because these springs are side specific, so you can't load the one in the wrong place. So there's one more motherboard screw right here. It's a Phillips one. Let's get that out of here. So now you can use your fingernail for this, or your tweezers. Get your tweezers under this cable right here and pry up, and then you can lift up this Wi-Fi chip. It has adhesive on this side of it right here. So this side of it might be stuck down, but this is where the connector is. So as long as you just lift up by the connector, that will come out, and then the adhesive will lift up as well. So now let's get this Wi-Fi antenna cable out of here. So it is routed underneath the cartridge slot. So let's get my tweezer under here, and then I like to push the gold connector of this cable up here, up this way, so like that, and then make sure it's flush with the board all the way down. That way it'll slide out smoothly. And then you can just slide it out of the cartridge port. If it doesn't slide smoothly, then just go back and forth like this while you pull it out, and it should come out free. So now this white cable here is the microphone cable. So let's do the same thing to it that we did the black cable. Just get our tweezers underneath there and pull up. This is the digitizer connector, so I can get my thumbnail in there and pry it up, or you could just use tweezers like that. And then you can pull out the digitizer cable just like that. I will be using a different digitizer, so it doesn't matter if that cable gets damaged for my scenario. But if you guys are reusing your old digitizer, then definitely be careful with that cable. So that's all done. Our board is ready to be taken out of the console. So now we can open it like this. Let's get our, I put my 2 fingers here on the bottom screen, and then I push up while holding on to this shell piece with my thumb. And then I just lift up the motherboard and I pry it out. Be careful with the top screen. I immediately unplug that. I use my thumbnail. I just get it underneath this black clip here. Snap it up. And then I put my pointer finger here on the ribbon cable against the shell piece. And then I pull the motherboard out with this hand. Sometimes it takes some force. Bam. And now it's disconnected. And now your motherboard is free from the DS Lite. Since Extreme Rate does include their own rubber pads, we will be using those rubber pads. But if yours are good, then I recommend to actually use these gray rubber pads and not the brand new ones. I like to stick with trusty Nintendo pieces when I can. And now we can disconnect the bottom screen to the board. If you guys are not replacing your bottom screen or your digitizer, then you can actually keep it on, and then you can keep this digitizer cable plugged in. But since I am removing it, I'm going to get my thumbnail underneath this black connector just like I did the top screen, snap it up, and now we can just pull it out. So here's our bottom screen and digitizer combo, and here is our motherboard. So now is when I'm going to use my sandpaper to basically renew these button contacts. The D-pad was the one that wasn't working. You can kind of see there's like some white grime, and then you can see at this angle there's like a black speck right there. There's normally more than that, but you basically want to get that grime off because over time that will make the buttons not work. And this is where sandpaper comes in. You might think, why aren't you using IPA and just a cloth? That does not work. That does not get this black grime off of here, and that will basically do nothing. So this is why I use sandpaper. I sand it down just a little bit, just like that. For each button contact, I'm going to do the same for these 4. All right. So now there's going to be a little bit of residual dust on the motherboard from doing that, so I just grab a clean cloth and I wipe it away. Alternatively, you could use IPA or some other cleaner to actually clean it off. And just like that, your buttons will work like absolute new. So let's get this motherboard off to the side and continue with disassembly. Some of these buttons you can just basically pour out of the console. Doesn't really matter what you do with these buttons. So now there's 2 screws here for the hinge cover. There's one. And here is the other. So now I like to flip the motherboard upside down this way. The hinge cover can usually come out now. And now as you see, this bottom piece is floppy. So let's get the mic cable out of its tracks. I lift it up towards this way, lift the black cable up towards this way, make sure it's out of the way of the top screen cable, like that. And now I like to hold these 2 cables up here with my right hand's pointer finger. And while I'm holding the device, this part of the device with this thumb, I pull the top screen cable and I kind of try to just get it through the slit right there, making sure it stays there. And just like that, once it's here, you can just kind of shimmy it out. And there you go. It's not too hard, but the top screen is very fragile, so just be sure to be pretty careful with it, as careful as possible. So now this shell part is free. Can put that over there. So now we have these 4 rubber pads on top of the console here. This is also where I will use my tweezers just to help to get them out. You can stab them and puncture them and then just lift them out. Again, Extreme Rate includes their own, so you'll have more to replace these ones with. So now that reveals these 4 screws here, which you can just use the Phillips screwdriver with. These screws are the shorter screw, the same exact screw that holds in the motherboard, and the one that's in the battery compartment for the shell. So we can put these screws off to the side since I will be reusing these. And so now after you've gotten those 4 screws out, we can slide this very top plate goes upward. So I'm gonna hold onto here and I'm gonna slide it this way. I'm gonna hold it like that and then slide it up like that. And as we can see, that slid this black plate upwards. And now we can just lift up and it comes off. So now we can put that to the side. And now here we have our top screen assembly. So what I do, First and foremost, I use my pointer finger and my middle finger here, and I pry upwards like that to get this top screen free. And then I do the same for this side of the top screen, and now you can see it's prying this way. So now I use these 4 fingers at the bottom of the screen, and I push upwards like that, and now our top screen, just like that, is free. So let's set it up like this way. These white stickers were still sticking to the shell piece, so I just pried them up. So now we can lay our top screen like that, and we can get our Wi-Fi antenna out of here. Make sure the cable does not snag on anything. Make sure it just has a clear path to get out. Like right there, it's pulling the top screen cable. You don't want that. Just pull it out nicely. Same for this microphone cable. Pull it out just like that. So now our top screen is ready to come out. So we can see it has a little bit of room here to go back and forth. I put it up as far as it can go. So not like that, but like that. That makes it easier to twist this part of the cable. I get the connector through that little hole there, and then I wrap it around. And now I pull it upwards even more. You can see I pulled it upward, and then I like to wrap it around inside of this metal cylinder in here, and then I kind of just squeeze the cable on through. It's okay to squeeze the cable. Sometimes you'll have to squeeze the cable to let it form to the inside of the cylinder, and then once it's inside, you can just pull it on out. And that is basically that as far as disassembly goes. So this top screen, we will be reusing this one, of course. It works. And if you inspect the cable, there's no tears. There's a little mark right there you can see, but that's normal. That's a-okay. So we can put that up to the side. We can get this shell piece out of here, the battery door, the old hinge cover. You will need the hinge, so keep this. All right, so now the fun begins. We can start to actually reshell. So now let's open up our shell. Let's grab this portion out of it. Let's undo this tape. And get our shell out of here. This is the blue, purple, metallic color that they have. It's very shiny. Pretty cool. For now, we only need this top portion. And we will also be using the top screen lens that came with it. So we will be using this. So for this part of the assembly, we will need the top screen border, which is in this baggie right here. We will need these shell parts. We can undo them just like we did the old shell. And then the next thing we will need is in here. We need this sticker and some stickers on this sheet right here. I'll show you exactly what these are for. This square sticker is very soft, it's foamy. This sticker goes right here on this shell piece, and we can see it from Nintendo, it's right here. This sits right where the solder points for the speakers sit, so it gives them a soft cushion to sit on instead of just hard plastic. And then we will need 4 of these rectangular soft fabric feeling stickers, and they go on these 4 spots right here. They basically dampen how hard this plate is sitting against the top screen and the whole top screen assembly. So we can see there's cutouts made specifically for these 4 stickers to sit. So let's put these stickers on first and foremost. They do not need to be on straight. The first sticker that I peeled up the backing sheet with it. So that was not good, but so there's one of these stickers. There's 2, 3, and 4. So we can see they're not perfect. They're all kind of cockeyed and whatever, but that's totally okay. As long as they are there, they will serve their purpose. And now let's get this square foamy sticker and put it right up here. Just like that. And then you can set it down in place. One thing that I forgot that we need is the metal cylinder. We need this metal cylinder right here and our hinge. So this guy will go in here. He's going to be loose, but that's okay. And then our hinge will go in there. I'm going to clean up the hinge. I'm going to show you exactly how to properly install the hinge. Sometimes people install them backwards, so make sure you watch how I do it. So we're going to put the hinge in. It could be backwards, it might not be backwards. And then we're going to grab our hinge cover, which is this piece in this bag here. And then we need the little plastic insert that goes inside of the hinge cover, which that is in this baggie right here that I was just in. This piece, this clear piece goes inside of this hinge cover. All right. So now, let's just put that right there for now. So now we have the hinge and the hinge cover. So I'm going to put the hinge cover over the hinge like this, upside down like this, with these screw holes facing up. This hinge is very tight. Okay, so you might have to use some force to get the hinge on there, but as you can see, I managed. There's still quite the gap there, but it's on. So here, by the way you turn it, you can see if it's on right or wrong. So see that? See how it just clicked like that? Click. And then it just kind of closes, and then we do this again. Click, click, click. So that's wrong. So if it's clicking like that for you, then take the hinge out and then flip it around just like this. And now it's going to be in the right position. So now you can click it and then close it. So this is the correct position, and you can tell it's the correct position because this right here, RDS is basically closed right now. I know it's hard to picture, but right here, like this, RDS is basically closed. So if we open the hinge, bam, now it's in the main viewing angle. So now RDS is open like this. And then if we put it into the flat position like that, then RDS is now basically like this. So that you just want to make sure that you are putting the hinge on in the correct position. You want it to be snapping like this, in that angle with the LEDs facing this way. So now we can close it like this. Bam. And now it's ready for installation. So once you got your hinge in the correct position, you can put the hinge cover just like this, and we'll keep this plastic piece off to the side for now. And do not forget about your metal cylinder. It will want to fall out, but just keep it in there if you remember to. So now, the top screen and the top screen lens. This is one of the most difficult parts of the whole shell swap, gonna be real with you, but it's definitely doable. It's hard because you could get dust in the top of it, and you probably don't want to get dust in the top of it. Thus, it's hard to not get dust in the top, which is why I say it's the hardest part of this. But if you don't care if 1 or 2 dust particles get in, then you're pretty much good. It's not too much to worry about. But I'm going to be showing you the best way to do this so that you do not get dust on the inside of your top screen. So as you saw, I peeled away this adhesive. So this is pretty much trash now. It's good double-sided adhesive though, but we don't need it. So now that we have our outline, look, this metal cylinder fell out. Don't worry if that falls out. I would just leave it off to the side if I were you. So now we can set our adhesive in place just like that. It lines up perfectly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to peel up one of the sides. We can see this one started to peel up first, so that's what we'll go for. We'll peel it up, and then we want to stick this adhesive down on to the top screen area like this. And you want it to be as straight as it can be. So just help line it up. And then once you've got it in straight, use your finger just like this around the perimeter to stick it down nicely. Okay, so now once that's done, you're basically ready to put the screen lens on this side, and then the top screen down on this side once you peel this cover up. So I'm going to peel this adhesive up so that we're ready. Can do this with tweezers. All right, and now once that's peeling up, just peel it off. So now this adhesive is all ready to go. So our top screen for our top screen here, you want to pull up the lens. Of course, if you want to keep the lens on your top screen, if your top screen is in good condition and doesn't have scratches on it, then by all means use the lens, but the color of the border might look funky with the color of shell that you purchased, so just keep that in mind. But for those of you who do want to swap, you can peel up the old top screen borders adhesive in the bottom here with your thumb and your pointer finger like this, and then lift up and hold the screen firmly with your right hand while you peel up. It takes some force. Okay, so now there's absolutely no dust on this top screen, so I want to go very fast to keep no dust being in there. We line up this corner first, and then line it up with the rest of the top screen assembly. And so now the LCD is still free on the back side, so we still want to work quickly here. So the part with the red, this part with the red piece it faces outwards. So I'm going to peel up the opposite side for now. And then really quickly, gonna lift up this. Our top screen's stuck in place, so don't worry about that. And then we can just get our adhesive in place. Oh, that's bad. And just like that, your top screen is in place. So now I'm gonna peel this back to see what kind of dust may have gotten in, if any. Man, look at that, dude. So there's one tiny little piece of dust on the inside in the bottom corner. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but it's very, very small. It will not be seen when gameplay is on. When the screen is on, you will not see it. So that, in my books, is a mega win. So if you guys don't want dust in your top screen, doing it the way I just showed will give you the best chances of not getting dust in there. As you can see, there was still a little piece in there. It snuck in somehow, but hey, that's not bad. So now that you got your top screen border attached to the top screen, you want it to be stuck on well. So make sure you put your fingers here and here, and you just stick it nicely all around the border of this top screen, just to make sure it's stuck on nicely, because this adhesive is super strong. So now we want to go ahead and remove the top screen again. So just like before, when I removed it from the black shell, I'm going to put my pointer finger here, my thumb here, pry it just like that to get the top screen free. And bam, just like that, our top screen is free. So now is when you're going to want to put this metal cylinder here. And then you're going to want to coil up the top screen cable like this. So that's 1, that's 2. I like to kind of do 2.5, but 2 might be okay. And then grab, after you've twisted it up 2 times just like this, after it looks just like this, then grab the actual connector with your thumb and pinch it against the top screen here. Obviously, like, don't pinch it, don't crease or anything, but if you hold it just like that, that should be totally small enough to fit through this hole. So now, hold the metal cylinder in place with your other pointer finger, slide it on through, and that should be good. Now it's going to want to pull the cylinder up with it, so just push it back down while you pull the ribbon cable out. And as we can see, just like that, our top screen is through. Pretty simple. It's nerve-wracking, especially if you haven't done it before, but it's still definitely doable, and I believe in you guys. So now I get the microphone cable and the Wi-Fi cable in. So first I'll do the black cable, put it through the hole there, pull it through, and then set the chip on there, and then route the black cable through these 2 studs right here, just like that. Now with the microphone cable, make sure it's not dusty. We can see it's kind of dusty there, and the microphone is also kind of coming out of the rubber here. So I like to wipe it with my thumb a couple times just to get it out of there. And we can see the rubber completely came out. Definitely take after me and don't rub it too hard to the point to where the rubber will come out. You need the rubber. If it does come out, then just try to shimmy it back on the microphone. Kind of just like that. All right, so now that looks pretty good to me. It's very clean. So now I like to drop the microphone in its circle here and make sure the white microphone cable is in the same direction as this little notch right here. There's going to be a little notch right here for the white cable to sit in. So you want to make sure it's in the same direction as that, and then put the microphone in. Sometimes it bulges out like that. It's totally okay if it does, but sometimes if it does, it can make the shell have slight fitment issues. So I like it when that doesn't happen. So I'm going to try again, make sure the microphone is in there. You don't see any metal around it. And then kind of just going to try again here. Just put it in just like that. All right, so it's not going to go in 100% perfect for me, but that's totally okay. And then we can get the cable through the hole. Just like that. And then the microphone cable has studs right here to hold it in. Just using my fingernail to put it in there. And just like that, our top screen assembly is pretty much done. Now we can fold the top screen back over, back onto where it goes, and now we can get the speakers in place. So there's one thing. The speakers on your DS Lite had these rings. These are like paper material. They don't do too much. I guess they just hold the speakers in place securely so that they don't rattle or anything. So I'm going to replace these. Normally they are not all shrinkled up like this, but this is kind of destroyed a little bit. I don't know why it's like that. Yours shouldn't be like that, but even if it is, it's totally okay. So there's a matte black side and a glossy black side. Make sure the glossy black side is upwards. It probably doesn't matter, but that's how I've seen most of the DS Lites that I've done. So once those rings are in there, you can put the speakers over on top of them, and the speakers should fit in place. So now this left speaker right here has one stud right here to hold the cables in place. All right, and so now this other speaker here got these white stickers up. I like to peel the white stickers up like this and hold it in place with my pointer finger like this while I get the speaker wires in place. So once you do one, then you can put the sticker back over and hold it down with your fingers while you do the other. And then just like that, you can do the other one. And then put the speaker in place. You can drop it in place just like that. And then there's one stud right here where the wires can go through, just like that. So that is OEM quality fitment right there, guys. So now we can get our top plate. Put it on just like that. And then slide it upwards. Basically the opposite of disassembly. Bam, just like that. We have our whole top screen assembly here. Looks pretty cool. The next step is to grab the bottom plate here so we can see it's still attached to the actual bottom plate. So let's just take it out of there, set this bottom plate off to the side. So the next step of the reassembly process is to get these two cables through this hole of this plate right here. So just put them on through like that. And then once they're through, I like to sit this part of the DS up like this, just like this, and then this one flat like this. And then we grab the top screen cable here, move it like that, and then we put it through the hole of this bottom plate, and I kind of just slowly turn it and slide it on, and just like that. And then I grab this top screen cable, pull it while I drop the bottom plate on to where it goes. And now, just like that, we can see we got the cable through. That's the hardest part of the console done. All the top screen shenanigans is done. So now is when you want to put this clear piece in here. So we can see for the hinge cover, there's a longer section right here and then a shorter one. So just make sure you're lining up the longer one to the shorter one right here. So this one, for example, is the longer one and this one is the shorter one. So we will drop that in place. And then we will drop this bottom shell piece right on top of that. Depending on how your hinge fit on, if it has a gap here, it might be a tiny bit tedious to get that on. But it just snapped on, so now we can see that's snug on. So now we can get these two long screws from the hinge cover, these long ones, and then we can tighten them over this hinge cover here. Go until it's tight, until there's no more gap between the hinge cover here and the bottom plate here. So let's get the second one in place. All right, that's tight. So now we have the buttons and the microphone cable. So we have to route the microphone cable properly. So this is very important that you do this. Otherwise, if this cable isn't routed properly, even if it's just the slightest bit off, the shell could have like a bow in it and it could have a slot in it that isn't supposed to have. So watch the way I route this. So first and foremost, I get it through this hole and through that little bracket right there. And then there's a stud right here, right next to this screw hole. So I put that in there, use my fingernail to lock it in place. And then same for right here, there's a track. Right here, there's a track. And then down the line, right here, there's a track. And then what I like to do to make reassembly actually a whole lot easier, I like to get my thumb and my thumbnail against this here, about in the middle of these right here. So about right there is where I put my thumb. And then I grab the mic cable and I pull it with pretty much force, like a decent amount of force, upwards to kind of bend it like that. And then see how it kind of bends the cable upward? That makes reassembly a whole lot easier. So before I install the buttons, I'm actually going to install the brand new digitizer onto my LCD here. So first, you'll grab the spudger that they sent us along with their kit, and I will put it in the top left corner here, and then I will kind of pry up to get the digitizer off of the LCD. Sometimes the adhesive will want to stick to the LCD itself and not the digitizer. That is not ideal, but that's definitely happening to us in this case. So I'm just going to pry up. See that adhesive, it's not sticking to the digitizer, but that's okay. So here we have our LCD, and we got to go fast because we do not want dust on this. I'm going to make sure there is absolutely no dust on this LCD, and I can see some dust specks already. So let's get rid of these dust specks as best as we possibly can. That looks perfect to me. So now I'm going to peel back, reveal the adhesive on our digitizer, grab the LCD quickly, and then drop our digitizer on. So you want to drop it on just like this. You want a little bit of space to be left up here. You want like just a little bit of space to be left up there, and you want it to be even. You want the digitizer to be as straight as possible. So we can see down here, if we're looking here, we can see this line of metal right here. That looks very straight, so that means that our digitizer is going to be straight. If your digitizer is not straight, and if it's crooked even the slightest bit, it will basically make it look like your LCD is crooked. Let's peel the top of it, see if there's any dust inside there. And again, there's one very small piece, two very small pieces, 3, 4, I'm kidding. There's only 2 small pieces, they're in the middle, but since they're so small, they're not gonna show up when the screen is on, which again, to me, is a victory. So now that we got our digitizer on our LCD, I'm gonna put the buttons on the DS. So here we have our buttons and our button rubber membranes. Let's open up our buttons here, pour them out. Let's get start and select in here. So we got X, here we have Y, This one is A, and here's B. Let's get our D-pad in place. Now let's bust open these rubber membranes. Here we have the D-pad one, our A, B, X, Y. And let's start and select. Once those are all on and in place, we can now get our board. Let's put the shoulder buttons and the power switch and volume sliders off to the side for now. So here's our bottom LCD. First, we're going to put it into the board just like this. Going to put it into the connector. Then we can push it in. Once it's in all the way, we can close the flap. You'll know that it's in all the way if there is little to no gap at all right here on either side, both right here and here. On this notch, this burgundy notch of the LCD connector that's sticking out, we don't want any gap to be between it and the cream-colored LCD connector there. So there's not. So let's flip it around and get our digitizer cable in place. I like to look at the bottom of the board here. We can see there's just, it's peeking out by a couple of millimeters, so we can do the same on that side. And that'll line up our digitizer cable perfectly. So now we can open up the flap here and try to route it in place. And then push it on through, and then we can close our flap. It'll click shut. So now, ready to get the board connected to the top screen cable. So now let's pull this black wire over here this way, and then we can get our top screen cable out like this. I like to pull it out a little bit, and then I hold it there with my thumb while I bring the board here. You want to make sure the top screen connector is open, like that. And now we can put the top screen cable into its connector, push on in just like that, and then you can close the flap. And again, with the bottom screen, you will see that there's little to no gap at all between the burgundy connector of the top screen cable to the beige connector on the motherboard. That's what you want to see. If there's a little bit of a gap, your top screen might not look right, or the console will not turn on. The bottom screen will flash. When you flip your motherboard down, I like to look at the hole on both sides, this hole and this hole. Make sure you put them down on top of the screw posts here, just to help line it up properly. And then you can get your board down in place. Make sure it's in place where it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to get the two motherboard screws in place before we do anything else to make sure it's secure. Okay, so we can see that screw is not grabbing the screw post. So I'm going to see what's up. It's just not grabbing it for whatever reason. So I'm going to put some force, some downward force right here to help it grab onto the screw post, and then it'll screw right in place. Same thing for this other screw. All right, so one thing I can see, the digitizer cable is like way off to the side like that. It's not supposed to be like that. So I'm going to open the flap again to make sure it's straight, and then I'm going to close the flap. So that should be good. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the Wi-Fi chip on. I'm going to leave these cables unplugged for now. I'm going to get our battery, put it up to the contacts here, and I'm going to test it. Going to make sure it turns on. Make sure the screen works. Make sure it looks good. And then I'm going to make sure all the buttons work. We can hear that both of the speakers work. So everything is good to go. Now, an important part, let's make sure this touchscreen works. If you have a brand new digitizer, it will likely need calibrated. But as long as it just inputs touch generally where you click, then we're good to go. So that's good. And as you guys can see, I swapped the green power LED with a purple one to help match the shell. I think that looks really cool. But let's continue with reassembly. So now let's remove this Wi-Fi chip again. It'll give us better access to plug the white cable in, the mic cable. So I like to bend it this way, downward like that, and then I plug it into the connector here. All right, and for this black cable, this one might give you guys some issues. It's totally okay, just be patient with it. You don't want to rip this golden connector off of it, that would be very sad. So you can see it's kind of all cattywampus. You want to make it as straight as possible. Just try to bend it to be as straight as possible, just like that. And then after you've gotten it straight enough, you can pull it back. And I like to put it into the console between this and this. So I'm going to put them between there. So I lay it right here, and then I just push it on through. Just like that. If it gets caught up on something, then kind of pull it out a little bit and then push it back through. And hopefully it'll get through. So just like that. So now we can plug our Wi-Fi chip in place. And then I like to hold this black cable here. This is where it's supposed to be routed, so I hold it there with my thumb and thumbnail. And then I put it into place on the Wi-Fi chip. Just like that. So that's all good to go. And now something just to make the DS look a little more pretty, I like to kind of flip around the black cable, kind of like that, to have a loop-de-loop. That's totally unneeded. You don't need that. So now our shoulder buttons. I know a lot of people hate putting these shoulder buttons back on, but I promise you guys it is simple. So first and foremost, grab your metal rods and then put them into their posts right here. Just like that. So after you put the metal rods in the posts, the right shoulder button goes on this side and the left shoulder button goes on this side. Now the springs, like I said earlier, are side specific. So you want the higher part of the spring to be on the outer part of the DS. So that's why this spring goes here and this spring goes here. You can see the spring is kind of like this. This side is higher than this side. So that means that goes on this side to the right shoulder button. And then we can see this spring here, this side is higher than this side. So this one goes right here. What I do, I'm going to put the DS like this so that the spring will line up easily when we assemble it. So first, for this side, for the right shoulder button, put the DS like this. So now I'm going to get the spring inside of the slot here of the shoulder button. And then once it's in, I'm going to tilt it this way, let go of the spring, and then we can slide it over the metal rod right here. And as I'm sliding this shoulder button down, you'll notice that the spring here, the line of spring that's still free that we can see out here, it's going to be seated perfectly between these plastic pieces here, which grabs the spring. And so now we can just move the shoulder button this way and then click it in place. And now look, the spring is loaded, hassle-free. That's that shoulder button, totally done. So now I'm going to do the same exact for this side. So I'm going to grab the spring like this. I'm going to put it in the shoulder button between these two slots, and now we can see it makes a hole. I'm going to let go and then put it over the shoulder button. Sometimes if it doesn't line up properly, you can grab the spring right here and then help it line up and then drop it right down on to this post between these two plastic pieces, just like that, and then slide it on. And just like that, our shoulder buttons are on. Pretty simple. So now our DS is ready for the bottom plate to be put on. However, there's quite a many things to do with this piece. So first, we need the stylus holder. And we have this piece as well. So this piece is what we'll put in first. So it goes in like this. Then we can just put it on top. So what this piece is, you might not be able to install this piece. So our board we can see right here, since this piece goes right around here. This board has nothing here. However, if we look at this motherboard here, it has this cream filler. I'm honestly not sure what this is. It's just kind of like a cream rubberized filler that they put over the boards. It's only on some other boards. So if your motherboard has this, for one, it's going to be harder to take this plate off initially disassembling it. But 2, if your board has this, then you will not be able to put this piece in, and you just basically won't use it. So basically, if your motherboard has this, then do not use this piece. Just set it off to the side. You can throw it away or whatever. But since in this scenario, our board does not have that, I will indeed be installing this. So that's what that piece does. I'm sure it just helps to isolate some components. So first and foremost, we put that piece on. Then we get our stylus cover on. And the way extreme rate stylus covers work, you have to put them in at an angle like this. And then lie them on, and then it's going to want to bow up, but that's fine. You can just screw it in place. And that is because there's a plastic notch right here. So that's why you have to put it in at an angle. So to screw it in, you can of course use the extreme rate screws if that's what you're doing. However, I'm going to go back to my original plate and take the screws off of it. And you'll want to take off all of these 5 lime greenish colored screws because we're going to be using all of them. So there's 3, we can put them in here. Again, whether you use the extreme rate included screws or the old ones, totally up to you. This is just my personal preference. So we're gonna get those in. And so now the next thing that we're gonna do for this plate is to get the bottom screen shield. This thing right here is actually a shield for the bottom screen. It helps protect it from impacts or from Game Boy Advance games being plugged in and out. So we're going to get that shield, and this, let's get these springs out of here since I didn't use the extreme rate ones. So let's get this shield out of here, and then this sticker as well. As we can see, this shield right here has this firm kind of sticker right there. So this shield has a blue film over it. Let's peel that up. Definitely peel it up. I mean, it kind of looks cool, blue, but it's not supposed to be on. And as you put in the Game Boy Advance slot cover or games, then it's just going to tear up this plastic and it's going to get all on your DS and everything. So make sure you take that blue film off. And then we can install the shield. The sides with the screw holes go down, just like that. And so now, again, we can use these screws from this shield. You could of course use the OEM one if you just want to transfer the old one onto the new. That would work totally fine. Okay, so that's done. So now we're out with that. We don't need that anymore. So now the sticker. It's going to put it horizontally around here. Doesn't matter too much where it goes, just in that general area. So now we need to put the screw hole in here for the battery door screw to bite into. That is going to be in this container right here. We can see these 2 rectangular things. That's what we want. And we're also going to get the screw for the battery door while we're in there. So here is the battery door screw. This one is for the battery door. You can see it's smooth on the top half and there's threads on the bottom half. This is the battery door screw. Make sure you use the correct screw. And here is the other piece that we will be using. So you can put this piece in horizontally like that, and then kind of just use your fingers to get it into place. And then we can slide it underneath this plastic piece right here, and then slide it on. Normally these will not fall out because you can see right here, there's a plastic post to keep it into place. However, sometimes it can fall out. So one thing that you can do to be safe is to grab the adhesive from the top screen. This was from the top screen adhesive. So I'm going to cut a little sliver of it, just like that. We can pull it off. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the cover, and then I'm just going to basically place it on top of here. Using tweezers for this really helps. This is not 100% necessary, but Nintendo did it from the factory. There's a piece of adhesive on their battery door screw hole, just keeping it in place. So now, that's that. So we can also peel up this white plastic piece that's over the adhesive, or not. Totally up to you. I'll keep it there just so that it doesn't grab onto dust or anything over time. So now that we got that, we can see it through the hole right there. That's perfect. That's not going to come out, especially since we got that adhesive on there. So now is time for the volume switch and the power switch. So what I do for this, I drop the volume switch into here at an angle, at this angle. And then I just push it in, make sure it snaps in, and then that's good to go. And for the power switch, you see the slot right here. You're going to want to get it between this slot, so I put it at an angle so that it can go between that slot, and then it just kind of falls right in. So now we are ready to put this plate onto the DS. After all of that prep, it's finally ready. So I'm going to flip it this way. I'm going to hold the volume switch in place and make sure it's all the way in the down position. In this direction is the down position. And make sure this switch right here is also in the down position. That is now in the down position. And so while I hold this volume switch in place, I hold it all the way down with that finger. I'm going to put this power switch all the way down. Make sure it's all the way down. If it's up, and if you put the plate on your DS, you can break your power switch, which would be very bad. So holding the power switch down and the volume switch down, I'm going to drop it onto the console. I let go of them. And then it just kind of drops on. You can use some downward pressure, and you know, like you can really hit it down, make sure it's on, and you can look to see if it's good. If there's no gap there, if there's no gap anywhere else, and we're looking pretty good, that's a gap because the screw isn't in yet. And now let's make sure the shoulder buttons are clicking. Let's put a lot of pressure with your thumb right here, and make sure that clicks freely. And same for over here. Put a lot of pressure with your thumb here, and make sure that clicks freely. Sometimes extreme rate shells are too tight around the shoulder buttons and they require some trimming. And in this scenario, no trimming was required. That's fantastic. Now, I'm going to put the rest of the screws in. Again, I'm using the screws for my old DS. If you are doing the same, then I'll show you exactly which screws to use. So these lime green colored screws, the slightly longer ones, go up here. I can see that's not biting on, so that did not bite onto anything, so I'm going to put some pressure here to make sure that it does. All right, that's on. So now the same lime greenish kind of screw. Gonna put it in this one. That's good. So now we have our one last Phillips screw. It's a smaller silver one. Gonna put it right here. This is the same exact screw that holds the motherboard in, and it's the same exact screw on the inside of the console where these 4 screw holes are. It's the same screw as that. So now I'm gonna grab my Y screwdriver. I'm gonna grab the 3 silver Y screws and put them in their places. This is one of those places. And then on the left side of the shell are the 2 other places. This one right here. And then this one right here. You'll know when to stop screwing it in, when it just becomes hard to screw in. And then this black Y screw will go in at the top. This extreme rate screwdriver seems to have lost its magneticness. All right, so that's all good. The next thing to do is to grab these rubber pads from this bag. Just gonna empty all the rubber pads. They give you a whole extra set. You can see here there's 4 of these, you only need 2. It's very generous of extreme rate. So I'm gonna grab these 2 here, peel them up. You may want to wait to do this to test your DS. Let's test our DS. Have a battery here. Turns on, that's awesome. That purple LED looks so sick. The shoulder buttons click wonderfully. D-pad works amazing. Let's test out the sweet colored stylus. Digitizer works Amazing. Let's get our DS set up. The start and select buttons also feel amazing too. I highly recommend using Extreme Rates button rubbers, honestly. Maybe not if your D-pad is good. The D-pad rubber's not as good quality as Nintendo's, but ABX-wise, and the start and select especially, definitely use Extreme Rates start and select button rubber, if anything. Man, that purple LED looks awesome. The screens are in brand new shape. They look amazing. Let's make sure these shoulder buttons work good. And we can see they do. All right, so let's continue with assembly. We're gonna get this other rubber here on this one. And then we have our battery door. Gonna put it over like this. And then we're gonna grab the battery door screw earlier, like I mentioned. Put it in there. Hold the battery door down and then screw this in. Just like that. And now we can get the GBA slot cover on. So guys, if you do not have a PCB from your old GBA slot cover, then it's totally okay to just put it together like this without a PCB in. But if you do have an old GBA slot cover with a PCB, then I highly recommend you put the PCB in. I'll show you exactly how I do that. So right here, for example, I just have an old beat up coral pink slot cover. It's not in good shape, so I'm gonna pull its PCB. We can see there's a PCB inside there with our Y screwdriver. Get that screw out, and then this basically slides. It slides like that, so I'm gonna slide it like that, and then you can lift up, and then that PCB comes out. Gonna give it a little bit of a cleaning, just to make sure it's all clean. All right, so now we can put this back off to the side and put our PCB inside of this piece of the slot cover. It'll line up on those two holes perfectly. And then you can put this piece over on top of it around here like that. And then it slides on just like the other slot cover did. So now for these, definitely do not use the same screw that was in your old GBA slot cover. Use this black one from the Extreme Rate kit. This is the one screw, along with the battery door screw, that I would recommend to actually use for your DS. It's a Y screw, so grab your Y screwdriver and then put it into here and then screw it in. And then once it stops screwing, you're good. With that size of screw, it holds it together perfectly tight, no wiggle, and it does not go through this other side here, so that is perfect. Exactly what you want. If you use this screw, it will stop screwing prematurely, it won't even fit in, and then you'll have a giant hole here. So now we can put our slot cover in the device. Fits wonderfully. Perfect. And now we have our 4 final Phillips screws for the top, and then these 4 rubber pads here, and these 2 rubber pads. So let's get these 4 Phillips screws in. If these screws aren't in all the way, then the rubber pads won't sit quite right, and they'll look a little elevated, which isn't very epic. So just make sure these screws are tight and in all the way, but not too tight. I mean, never go too tight, but all right, so those are all tight. So now we can grab these 4 rubber pads. So you can just bend it from any corner and then peel it up. There's one, There's 2. All right, and so now for these 2 top rubber pads, sometimes they can be a little finicky because they have a base that's slightly thicker than themselves, but normally you can still just slide it in and then use a thumbnail to get the rest of it in place and then just set it down. Just like that. Just like that, you guys. So same thing for this one. Gonna put it in at an angle and then get the rest of it in place. So there we have our fully completed extreme rate shell swap from the ground up, including every single little bit. Let's give these screens a little cleaning. With the way that I did it, there's hardly no dust at all on the inside of the screens. Like I said earlier, just the 2 or so from before on the bottom screen and then the 1 tiny one on the top. Looking back at it now, there's a couple more, but they're pretty much invisible. You have to look really, really hard, and I'm even under my super bright light. So small dust particles really don't matter all that much. They do not show up when the screen is on, and look how nice this system looks. This is awesome. It's kind of weird. It kind of looks, I don't know if naked would be the word, but with all of the same color just all around, it kind of looks like it's bare. I don't know. I think it would look super cool with black buttons and then maybe black rubber pads up here. So like if you want to customize yours a little bit, you can maybe use some buttons and shell parts of your old DS. I absolutely did not mean to do that. There's a noticeable lip from here to here. You can see if I just slide it along, there's a lip there. That lip is the exact width or height of your bottom screen border. So this comes off of the digitizer, and if you want, you can put it on over top here. It'll stick on, and it will actually be 100% flush with the bottom screen border. You see, it doesn't come out at all. I mean, maybe the absolute slightest bit, but you can't feel it whatsoever. It feels nice. Yeah, how does that look? There's actually one last thing I totally forgot about. It's the ID sticker, the serial number sticker. Gonna peel it up. I'm pretty awful at placing these things on. I'm pretty awful at lining stickers up, whether it's skins or actual stickers like this. I'm really bad at it. So I'm gonna try to put it on. I'm gonna try to leave a little bit of a gap here on this side, basically like that. And now I'm going to watch the bottom of it and try to put it on as straight as humanly possible. That's pretty good. There is the whole entire extreme rate shell swap done. This thing looks so cool, and I love the purple LED too. I did that off camera before I swapped the motherboard back in, but yeah, that LED just looks so sick. But guys, this shell is super cool, super high quality. If you look, it's purple there, and as I open it, it's just blue. Now it's like purple again there. This shell is so cool. I do have reshelling services if you would like me to do this for you. And I also have LED swap services if you would like me to change the color of your power LED. I can make it whatever color you'd want. I'll leave links in the description. And if you are going to be reshelling your own console, I wish you luck. Be sure to watch the video a couple times. Try to get some of this stuff into your memory. I promise that helps. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any questions whatsoever, no matter what question it is, just drop a comment. I'll do my absolute best to help out. And thank you for watching, guys. I will see you next time.